right, we are down here with puppy Remy for our week 1 video recap. Hi, buddy. We're going to get him warmed up with a little bit of play. So we've got the flirt pole down here. This one's usually a fan favorite for the puppies. You can see Remy's already into it. Good boy. You get it, Remy. You get it. So we want training to be fun. We want it to be positive. So we're going to take a lot of play breaks during our recap video. We're going to go through all the behaviors that we've introduced and practiced with the pups over this last week. In your initial confirmation email, there's a link to a webpage that has a lot of resources for you, some handouts, and then also a video library by week. I'm going to strongly encourage that you watch the week 1 videos because that's everything that I'm going to go through with Remy right now. And those videos have a lot more detailed explanation on how we train the behaviors and why. Okay, so the recap videos are just going to kind of run through all those behaviors with your particular puppy, Remy, right now. So once I got this back from you, once I get this back from Remy, which I did, we're going to move into our first training exercise. The very first thing that we introduced to the pups this week was the clicker. The clicker is a reward marker. We want the dogs associating the sound of the clicker with food. We have options down here. We have the crunchy treats, which are the vital essentials. Essentially, this is the puppy's breakfast today. So coordinating your training times with meal times. Super helpful because then you've got a motivated dog. So I'm just going to click the clicker and I'm going to feed Remy a treat and we are going to go from there. We're going to do this a couple of times. It's called charging the clicker. I want Remy to understand that the sound of the clicker means the food is coming. So we charge the clicker for a few reps before we move into our other exercises. Woohoo! He knows that I have those cookies now. What a good boy. And we're going to move on to our next exercise, which is following a food lure. So I'm going to take the food in my hand. I'm going to hold it on a flat palm like this, and it's going to be underneath my thumb, okay? Then I'm going to show Remy that I've got that food in my hand, and I'm going to get him connected to it, okay? See how he's licking it? And I'm going to have him start to follow that. After a few steps, I'm going to mark that with the clicker and release the treat. Let's do that a couple more times. Okay, so now I have the food in my left hand. He's connected, he's following. We click, we release. Good boy. One more time. So now what I can start to do as he's following the treat, Remy. I like to pair it with their name. So now we're teaching the puppy what their name is. Also, when they hear their name, they should respond and follow. Remy. Super important foundation behavior. These 3 things right here are what I start with any puppy or any new dog that I am working with. I don't care what age they are. Cool. Want to do one more? Okay. It's connected to the food lure. Remy. He's following. We mark and release. Good job, Bubs. So we already did 3 behaviors right out of the gate. Charge the clicker, follow the food lure, and a little bit of the name game. So after practicing a few things, we're going to go back into a little bit of play. Because again, these are tiny little babies. They've only been on the planet for 9 weeks. We want to make sure that training is fun, that it's positive. We're taking breaks. We're not asking too much of the dog too quickly. Boop, boop, boop. What do you have? Flirt pole is fun. Where did it go? You lost it. Oh, there it is. There it is. Are you hungry? Do you know that I have food? Do you want to just get back to work? A lot of the dogs are super into the toys, and some of the dogs, as soon as they know that you have food, they're just like all about the food. But I think that it's good to have a nice balance between play and food. So even though he kind of checked out from the toy for a second, I was still a little insistent. I was like, we're taking our play break. Let's do that. There's plenty of food for when we get back to that. What are you doing? Oh, I want it. I'm going to steal it now. All right, so the next behavior that we're going to do is called a hand target. It's going to look very similar to the food lure, except this time I'm going to disconnect from the puppy When Remy reconnects, that's when I'm going to mark with the clicker and let him have the treat, okay? So let me show you what that looks like. Where are you? These puppies get under my feet. You're so small. Okay, so he's connected to the food. I'm going to disconnect. Touch. We call this behavior touch. When he reconnects to my hand, we're marking that with the clicker, releasing the treat. Again, notice how I'm going back and forth between sometimes my left hand, sometimes my right hand. This is following the food lure, and now touch. That's the hand target. Good boy, Remy. Let's do one more hand target. Touch. Yeah, good job, Bubs. Good boy. Okay, so let's move on to the mat now. The mat is going to turn into a stay behavior, but we break this down into teeny tiny steps for little baby puppies, right? Or did you just notice that there's a blanket up there? So again, I'm going to show him the food, lure him over to the mat. When he gets 4 paws on, I'm going to mark that with the clicker, and I'm going to let him have a cookie. Maybe I'll let him have 2. Are you laying down to chew that up? There you go. Here's another one. After we reward him for coming over to the mat, then I'm going to release him off. Okay. So when I say okay, I toss a cookie, and that means you can get off the mat now. Let's see if we can do that a couple more times. Lure him over to the mat. Mark that, feed him. And again, you can give him more than one treat for being on the mat to build value. And then with that last cookie, we're going to release him off. Okay. Okay. Good job, buddy. Let's do that one more time. Remy. Lure him over. He's got 4 paws on. That's when I click. Good job, smart boy. Feed him a couple pieces. And then we tell him he can get off. Okay. Great. All right, so I know that looks super simple right now, but we will be adding steps to that behavior each week, making a little bit longer, requiring more from the puppy to actually stay on the mat. But this is how we start to build this exercise. Okay, so for our last behavior in this round, let's work on our first position change, which is sit. What are you doing? You crying? Because you know I have the food. So again, we're going to lure the puppy, and as soon as his bum is down on the ground, we're going to mark that with our clicker. This is another behavior where I will use the release word. After he's done eating this cookie, if he's still maintaining the sit position, I'll say, okay, which means you're allowed to get up out of the sit now. You're a smart boy, Remy. Let's see if we can lure him to find the sit again. There it is. Good man. Okay. Release cookie means you can get up. Let's do one more sit. Sit. Good sit, buddy. Very good job. Okay. Wow, puppy. All right, let's take another play break. We did a few things. Got to make sure it stays fun. The flirt poles I really like for puppies and dogs of all ages too, because it's a nice way that you can kind of like exercise and give enrichment to your dog, and it doesn't ask a lot from the handler, from the person, right? Like all I need to do is just flirt the pole around, and you know, the puppy usually is happy to chase, bite, and tug the toy at the end of it. Be careful, these floors are slippery, silly boy. Notice that I'm just meeting his opposition with the tug. I am not trying to like pick him up off the ground. I am not trying to pull him all over the place, right? We're just doing some back and forth gentle opposition. That's fun enough. I don't want to risk injury, and I also don't need to make play something that is already super arousing even more so. Where is it? Where's their toy? Oh, good boy. Good boy. So we've got one more little round of behaviors to get through. So when I win this back, I'm going to show you some handling exercises. Super important for all puppies, part of the socialization process. Oh my goodness, I got it. Don't worry, we'll play one more time before we're done. Okay, so again, I'm going to grab some food. I'm not going to use the clicker for this one because I want to use both my hands. Instead, I'm going to be using a verbal marker. I'm going to say yes instead of clicking the clicker when I want to give them a cookie, okay? If it's comfortable for you to do so for these exercises, you can get right down on the ground with your puppy, or you can always pick your puppy up and bring them up onto a table or some other surface, right? So I'm just getting him connected to the food lure up here. I'm just going to start by petting him gently, normally. Then I'm going to take this hand, bring it underneath his belly, and we're just going to kind of hold him still for a second. Yes. Okay, there's his first cookie. What a good boy. From here, I'm going to move into handling some different body parts. So I'm going to start with his ears. Just massage his ear canal a little bit. Yes, I did that to both ears, and then he gets another cookie. Let's move on now to some feet. Letting him finish that piece. Okay, I'm just going to pick up a foot, gently massage. Pick up the opposite foot, gently massage. Yes. Good boy. Let's do the same thing for his back feet. Try to spin them around so you can see what I'm doing. Again, you can pick them up first if you want. Pick up a foot, massage, and pick up a foot, massage. Yes! Good job, buddy. And then finally, we can do the same thing with his tail. Letting him finish, getting him reconnected, then moving into the next body part. Yes, good boy. Okay, so note that I am not picking up his ears and pulling on them. I'm not picking up his tail and pulling on it or doing that with his feet or anything. I just want the dog to get comfortable and used to the fact that sometimes I need to pick up different body parts. I might need to move you. I might need to hold you still or, you know, massage you or whatever, and it's okay. Okay, so super important part of the socialization process is that we get our puppies comfortable for necessary things that are going to have to happen at the groomer and the vet. And finally, our last little exercise, also part of the socialization process, is introducing our puppies to different types of gear. So we've got harnesses that we're getting the puppies dressed in. Sometimes the first time or the first week that they're dressed in their harnesses, they act like they're wearing little straitjackets and they can't move. It's sort of comical, but they just got to get used to it, right? Dogs, all animals, aren't born just being okay with things that humans do to them or put on them. We got to teach them, right? What's that? So for the harness, what I really like to do is just get them dressed, and if they are motivated by the toy, then I just bring out the toy again. And we just play because I want the dog to realize that they can move around normally, freely, comfortable, even when they have the, you have your foot stuck in the toy. Come here, puppy. There you go. He had his foot stuck in it. Good boy. Didn't really seem to care, but didn't want you to face plant. Which they kind of do anyways because these floors are so slippery. You're a good boy. So when you just start to play with the dog, like if they're motivated to play with toys, like I think that's the best way to socialize them through different things that might be slightly stressful, like being dressed in your harness for the first time. But these dogs are all doing great with it. They're all happy to play and move around even though they have their harness on, okay? All right, so that's everything for week 1. Certainly if you have any questions, you can shoot us an email. We're here to answer your questions. Make sure that you watch the videos in your video library, and you check out those handouts on that resources page. But then we'll see you next week for Remy's week 2 recap.